Are you listening out there? Are you paying attention? Are you doing the best you can possibly do? Well, if you aren't, then you pick up that pen right now and you get focused. And we're going to drive this one through. We're going to get the best marks we can. So let's get in there! Apologies if they got a little bit exuberant and it got a bit dramatic. Well, I'm hopefully going to allude to the idea that this next topic is about management styles and how you manage your staff to achieve your objectives. So, apologise for the dramatic intent there. If you can see the connection now, what we're trying to do is this topic is management styles. It fits within the Area Study 1 Business Foundations. And we're going to cover a lot of content here about how managers direct and motivate their staff. So what do we include in this lesson? We're going to look at management styles. So the dot point from the study design is management styles, including. Once again, you may do more with your teacher, but these ones are specifically written down in the study design, and you must cover autocratic, persuasive, consultative, participative, and laissez-faire. Now, I apologise if you've just joined us here. If you saw my opening slide a little bit overly dramatic, I was trying to allude to the idea of an autocratic management style. Now, clearly, we're not going to use the Army as a business case study, okay? Because remember, that's a government department. It's not there to make a profit. So please don't write down Army majors in terms of a business contemporary case study. But what hopefully you can see was my direct, controlling, one-way communication and slightly aggressive management style. And that was my dramatic intent behind that. So what is an autocratic manager? It's a leader who dictates the objectives to be achieved. Their communication is one way. They are telling you what to do, and all the decision making is retained by the manager. So this picture here of a slightly sort of wagging finger is supposed to allude to the idea that they have total control. The manager makes the decision and tells the employee what to do. We're not asking them. We're not consulting with them, we're telling them what to do. It's a very direct approach where the manager has that control. They dictate what the objectives are and they say how they should be achieved. Now, why would you have that type of style? Well, clearly it's going to retain all the control. The manager makes the decision. The manager thinks what they want to do and tells the employees what they want to do. Okay, so all the control is retained. It's also very efficient as there's no discussion, there's no consultation. Now, I'm being slightly dramatic again, but if you can imagine this in a war scenario, okay, when the sergeant major, and you see this all the time in any movie clips, or you've got family members who are in the army, the whole purpose is that you don't question the line of control, because otherwise you're probably going to be dead. We're not going to have, I'm not sure which way we should attack. Should we come from the left? Should we come from the right? What do you think, Fred? Okay, Fred's dead. Okay, so the idea about having decisive decision-making and one line of communication is that you expect, in this case here, the army personnel to do what you tell them to do and to do it straight away. And in a business scenario, we expect it to be done straight away without questioning. So it's going to have no discussion, no consultation. And therefore, that's going to be a big strength, that it's going to be very quick, very efficient, very time effective. Now, some of you might have jumped ahead and gone, hang on a minute, the disadvantages look the same as the advantages here. But no, we're going to flip them. Think for yourself, what's the disadvantage of retaining all the control? Well, now, by retaining all the control, then that manager's going to potentially be overworked. They're going to have to deal with an awful lot, that everything has to run through them, and they're going to have to be thinking about all those ideas, and they're not asking anybody else for any consultation. They're not going to add to their decision by going, actually, somebody else has got a great idea, I can add that to my decision. So although it can be a strength, hopefully also you can see it as a potential negative. Yeah. Potential negative retaining all the control and having no discussion is we're not getting a better decision. The opportunity has been lost because we're relying solely on our own wisdom, our own ideas. We've lost the ability to engage and empower employees. We're not asking them to improve their skills and their knowledge. We're just asking them to do what we want to do. So sometimes we can have a negative of employee morale because they haven't been consulted. Equally, and I'm just trying to draw this in here. I know I'm being dramatic and I'm being over the top. The actual management style doesn't require you to be aggressive. It just needs to be assertive, okay, in terms of pushing it through. But if you've ever experienced at a part-time job a manager who has had a very dictatorial, autocratic, one-way communication, demanding approach, sometimes very assertive, sometimes aggressive, that can be very wearing on an employee. If I were to do this and shout at you and demand things from you, you might do it straight away out of fear, but over the long-term impact, you might be going, okay, I don't really want to work for this business anymore. This is not an approach that I feel comfortable with. Some people like this style, some people don't like this style. It has its strengths and weaknesses, and you need to explore those in your answers. Arguably, a very good example of autocratic in play is Elon Musk. The CEO and the leader, and arguably one of the most influential CEOs of our time, in charge of Tesla, SpaceX, and the organizations that go with that. He's known as having a very demanding style, that it's his way or the highway. And he's had many staff come and go through his business for not being able to match those demands and his high expectations that he has. He likes to be across everything, and his decision is ultimately what's required from his workers. He has incredibly high expectations. It is known within the fields, long working days, working weekends to make sure that the project gets done on time to the specifications that he has. So demanding, he has lots of decisions, fast communication, and expectation that employees will do what is required of him. So this will be a great example of someone who employs very effectively the autocratic management style. The second management style is persuasive. Okay, I'd like you to pick up your pen. I'd like you to take down some notes and follow through what I'm going through. I'm just alluding to an example of the persuasive style, whereby I'm still telling you what to do. I'm making the decisions, I'm retaining all the control, and I'm telling you. So I'm not asking for your feedback, it is one-way communication. So the leader is dictating the objectives to be achieved, and I'm persuading you how to achieve them. So if you can see the subtle distinction there, his autocratic was a lot more assertive. It was like a demanding approach. Okay, well, I'm telling you what to do. Here, I'm trying to persuade you what to do. So it's coming with a little bit more of an emotional intelligence, work with you to get you to do what I want you to do, but it is still my decision, and I'm still telling you what to do. I'm just persuading you rather than telling you. How is this good or bad? Well, if you can see again, we've got some similarities to autocratic here. Okay, the manager's still retaining all the control. If you want something done, it's going to be done this way. The manager can make their decisions and see where it wants to go, and they know pretty much it's going to actually occur. Time is used very efficiently again, because I'm not asking you for your opinion. Once I've told you what to do, I expect it to be done. Okay, I've persuaded you to do it. So the time wasting about feedback and loops behind that is gone. Hopefully, and if you see the benefit this time, is I'm going to get slightly better morale. Rather than, again, yelling at you, or in the very least, demanding of you and telling you what to do, now I'm persuading you. And hopefully you may feel better in that reaction there, that it's not so demanding from you. So I'm hoping to try and retain some of the employee morale. Now the disadvantages, again, are very similar to the autocratic, if you see, okay? I'm still not asking you for any of your opinions. So with no employee input, you're going to feel left out of it. Equally, you might have had something great to add to this discussion, and it hasn't been considered. So I'm not considered that. I'm not added to my decision-making approach, and maybe I haven't added up something that you had, which was awesome. And by continuing along that path, and if I never consider your opinions, then over time you're going to feel unempowered. You're not going to feel part of the business. You're not going to feel you have a point to say. So persuasive. A gentler, arguably, approach where it's now persuading you to do it rather than telling you what to do. Now, a good example of persuasive is Gina Reinhardt from Hancock Prospecting, the wealthiest, richest person in Australia at this present point as I'm recording the images, and the 6th richest woman in the world as of 2022. So very powerful in terms of, you think about a mining company and all its operations and mines that operate. They're big operations that need to be managed very carefully, and they need to be made to work to that objective. So her role there is very much about, okay, this is my opinion, this is going to happen, but she has a softer, gentler touch in terms of making that occur. Still very controlling, okay, but persuades people to do it rather than just tells people what to do. The next management style down, consultative. Okay, so let's pretend like you're in my class right now. Okay, guys, we have like a 15-minute window here. Would you prefer to do the video YouTube clips or do some questions behind it all? Okay. Now, by asking this of you, I've now involved you in the decision-making process. What's ultimately going to happen, though, in this class is I'm going to make the final decision. So I can see some feedback from the group here. We have 10 hands going for the YouTube clips, but I can see 12 hands going against it and want to do some questions. So in my decision as your teacher, we need to be making some progress on this. We're going to go with the questions. Everyone's going to do the questions. What I've done here is I've involved you. I've involved you in asking your opinions, but I'm not letting you make the decision. So I'm still going to retain that control of the decision. So I'm still retaining the ultimate decision-making ability here by me, okay? But now communication is two-way. I've asked something from you, and you give me some feedback, and now I'm going to tell you the decision that I've chosen to make. Now, hopefully you can see that's going to have some advantages and disadvantages from both of the preceding management styles by this. Now that I'm asking for your opinion, then hopefully I've broadened the pool of ideas. Some of you mentioned that you've already seen the video already, so it's going to be silly to do the video and the YouTube clips because the questions are better, okay? I've got some feedback. I'm going to make a better decision, and I'm also going to be able to see how you feel before making that final decision for you, so I can read the group a bit better. So my decision making will hopefully be enhanced. I'll make a better decision. Also, hopefully you now feel engaged in the class. You've had some input. Okay, you're going to feel that, okay, I've been taken account of. Your motivation's increased and you feel a part of the class. Not being lectured at, but actually being an active participant. You know that I'm still going to make the final decision, but your voice is being heard. Now, if you think about, though, at the same time, unlike the preceding styles where I've just literally told you what to do, by asking you, that naturally takes time. So the process is going to slow down a little bit, because I've got to allow time for that communication to go out, feedback to come in, I make the decision before going through again. So we're naturally going to be slower at that process. And unfortunately, some of you, the 10 who still wanted to watch the videos, have unfortunately been ignored because I've decided to go with the 12, which is the majority, and it's my decision. So there's still a chance that some of you may feel resentment for the fact that your personal opinion wasn't being taken account of. But hopefully you can see here now, we've got two-way communication and hopefully a better decision because I'm getting some feedback before ultimately I make the decision myself for the group. They ask for the employees for their opinions before making a decision. A good example of this is Janine Ellis. If you've read her book, The Accidental Entrepreneur, or if you've seen her on Shark Tank, or if you've seen her in Boost Juice, and some of you may have part-time jobs with Boost Juice, this is the owner, this is the founder of Boost Juice, and the director of that, and she's been involved in Shark Tank panels as a coach and a mentor for young entrepreneurs and aspiring business people. So she has a very active role, but a fascinating story behind it. Some of you may come from the area, but she originally went to Knox Secondary College and progressed through that. When she finished school, wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do. She did a bit of work in modelling, a bit of work in marketing and administration. She travelled overseas. She was on a summer camp in America while trying to find her way. She was a nanny in France. She eventually ended up working on yachts, and arguably super yachts, down in the Mediterranean, of which one of those was ultimately owned by David Bowie. So she sailed the world for a few years, travelled, did all of that, and then came back with the idea of a boost juice, fruit juice blended business. Started off very small and then grew and grew. Now, clearly, with that wealth of experience and life experience and all those activities, she's drawn on her own skills, but also listened to other people. If you see her on Shark Tank, she's a very determined decision maker, but she's listening for that feedback. How can I make a better decision? What can I draw upon? So a good example of a consultative management style. Participative management style. This will be a classic one where, okay, you're in my class right now. Let's have a special treat. What should we have as fast food, takeaway? We're going to watch a movie together on a Friday afternoon. What does everybody want? Now, hopefully you can probably imagine what would happen in that type of class. Some of you go like, okay, I want Subway. Some of you go, okay, I want Hungry Jack's. I want McDonald's. I want fish and chips. I want a really healthy food option. Some of that stuff is terrible. There will be all this discussion going on. And if I leave it to you to make as a decision as a group, hopefully you get there. But you might also see the potential that this is going to be a never-ending discussion. So I've hopefully alluded to some of the strengths and weaknesses of this style. This is a group decision-making style where the manager involves the leader sharing the decision-making responsibility with their employees. We're looking for a consensus. We're looking for you as a group to go, okay, all of us are happy to have pizza as our treat while watching the movie, okay? That would be the scenario. Now, if you can imagine here, what's the features of this style? Well, the communication is two-way. It's between me and this person here and this person here and this person here. So lots of interaction, lots of discussion between the members, okay? And ultimately, the decision is going to be made by the whole group as a consensus. We're all going to reach a happy vibe where we're all happy with that decision and we've all had our part to play in that decision. So this is a group management style where the group makes the decision. What's good about that? Well, hopefully everyone gets input. So we're recognizing that the skills and abilities of the employees and everyone has an empowered role to play in making that decision. Clearly, it's a lot about group decision making and teamwork. So with all that input, surely we make the best possible decision ever because we've got everyone's input to draw upon. However, if you can imagine what that scenario might be like, or heaven forbid, some of you with your friends are deciding what to do on a Friday night and you're calling each other or texting each other and you've experienced that bit where it's endless decision making and input and we never finally get there, there is a potential for this to be incredibly time consuming. As you're drawing in and discussing everyone's views, it just goes on and on and on. So the potential here is that you could get to a point where we just don't make a decision or it's a very long time to make that decision. And equally, and you may have felt this yourself, if your input ultimately is disregarded, you can feel very left out of that or have some conflict that might occur between employees. Go, well, what about my idea? Why didn't you take my idea on board? So this can be very good for group decision making, can be very good in a creative atmosphere where you're trying to draw on lots of different ideas, but it has the potential disadvantage of being time consuming. So participative, decisions are made by the group, communication is two-way, sender and receiver. A contemporary example of participative management in action is the boys at Atlassian Corporation, the software design business. So Mike Cannon-Brooks and Scott, who work together with loads of ideas. So you often find this style occurring in software businesses or creative marketing where you want loads of ideas. You want people to bounce off each other and add something special to it. So this is a business that has grown from information and sharing ideas. We've now got over 234,000 customers, 190 countries, 10 million active users. So a big business that has grown from a wealth of ideas and lots of people sharing decision-making responsibilities together. Okay, our next management style, in a very French Parisian accent, is laissez-faire, which is to let be, to leave alone. Okay, so the idea being within this style here, you're just going to let it be. You're going to let the employees make the decision. So you're handing over responsibility for the actions of what's going on. So if we can take this apart here, the employees are totally responsible for the decision making and operations. The manager has no longer got any central role or power. They're still going to retain the ultimate accountability. So what we mean by that is, okay, if the project fails, it is still my fault because I'm accountable for it. But I'm leaving the decision making, the activities, the tasks, the duties, who performs what role, to the employees to make their own decisions. So if we're looking at features here, we've got features which the communication is clearly going to be two-way, because I'm going to have discussions with you, I'm going to look for your input, etc., 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 but I'm letting you make that final decision. So two-way communication, but importantly, the decisions are made by the employees. The manager takes a very back role in this one here and literally steps back from the whole process. Reckless, interesting, dynamic. I'd be interested in your opinions, but this is a very trusting system. Okay, as a manager, I'm letting you make all those decisions. So if you think of the advantages, hopefully for the employees, you feel empowered. I trust you. I consider you. I think you've got some great ideas and things to offer, and you get complete freedom and responsibility to do them. So it is a very empowering role, okay? This is often seen in industries with a very creative aspect as well. People going, okay, well, got this great marketing campaign, but you know exactly how to do it. You've got these great ideas. Just come back to me when you're finished, okay? Often sometimes in the gaming industry, okay, where people are working on software development and they go, okay, right, I just want a new game out in the next 3 months. I trust you to have as many different ideas and talk to different people about how to do it. Just come back to me in 3 months with the final solution. So it works well in very creative situations, high degree of individual responsibility. Risks? Well, obviously there might be some here. The fact that I've stepped back completely and handed that across, if that trust isn't followed through, if you see that as a source of weakness, then I've lost control, okay? And there might be conflicts between you and some of your colleagues about how the ultimate project leads on, okay? So that allowance for you to have control can also be a source of disadvantage, where I'm losing control of the ultimate operations. But it could be a very creative type of management style where lots of ideas are generated and employee input is really paramount. A contemporary example is arguably Warren Buffett. If you've ever followed this gentleman and seen his background, he's a well-known business magnate, investor, philanthropist, and he's currently the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. So he's an investor. Principally, he's an investor. The idea being he's got a lot of money to invest in different projects and to see them occur. And therefore, he entrusts the people he invests the money in. So he's running the operation. He's running the business. He's ultimately accountable for what happens. But his trust and a level of empowerment for people working on the individual projects is really, really high. So this is somebody who's known for letting people make mistakes so that they can learn from them. Empowering, entrusting, leading, and allowing them to be responsible for the decision making. So we've come to the time to have a go at a worked example about how management styles could come up in an exam question or a SAT question or a topic question. So here we have one in front of us, and it's come from a VCAR past question, so it's been altered a little bit, but you can see how it could potentially occur in November. So here we have the question, and once again, let's grab our magic pen and underline the key words. So our key task word starts off with compare. Okay, so compare, if you remember, this was all about we need to do two things. We need to talk about the similarities and the differences. Okay, so between these terms. So we've come to the time to have a go at a worked example about how management styles could come up in an exam question or a SAT question or a topic question. So here we have one in front of us, and it's come from a VCAR past question, so it's been altered a little bit, but you can see how it could potentially occur in November. So here we have the question, and once again, let's grab our magic pen and underline the key words. So our key task word starts off with compare. Okay, so compare, if you remember, this was all about we need to do two things. We need to talk about the similarities and the differences. Okay, so between these terms. We're comparing the features of an autocratic management style with those of a consultative management style. So we need to have a similarity and difference. Now this is an important point where we can see now also marks in the corner here. Ah, it's worth 4 marks. So this isn't going to be a simple just identify and move on, skipping along. We're looking for some detail here, okay? So we should explore this and add some description behind it. So we're looking for more than just a basic answer. We're trying to draw it out. So again, let's scaffold this through together, where we have an autocratic management style is one in which the leader dictates policies and procedures, decides the objectives, and directs all the activities without any meaningful. Here we go. Here's our both. Both the autocratic and consultative styles share the features of managers making the ultimate decision. Both of them, the manager makes the final decision. Here's our difference. However, whilst the autocratic style utilizes one-way communication, I tell you what to do, the consultative style has two-way communication. I firstly ask for your feedback and your input before then I ultimately make the final decision. So we have a similarity and we have a difference. Okay, so well worked through, scaffolded nicely and presented really well for an assessor. Okay, so we've got to the summary concept map time, and hopefully in front of you here you can see a really nice way of putting it all together and then seeing the differences between each one of them. Okay, and I'm going to draw a couple of lines on here, so if you need to take a screenshot of this or print this one page off so you can add some annotations and some thought process behind it, but it's a nice visual concept map of this area talking about management styles. Okay, so first of all, just a summary word about each one. So autocratic tells employees what to do. Persuasive persuades them what to do. For consultative, we're asking for their opinions before making the decisions. Participative, we share it together as a collective group. And laissez-faire is all about the freedom to do what the employee thinks is best. Now here we start to see like sort of similarities and differences between each one. So both the autocratic and persuasive persuade people what to do, okay? Tell people what to do. It's a one-way line of communication. I'm not expecting any feedback at all. Whereas these three styles are all looking for interaction and feedback. The manager comes up with the idea, discusses it, looks for some feedback before either making a decision, or in this case here, lots of feedback. Everyone's going to converse and make the decision together. Or in this case here, lots of feedback to begin with, and then you leave the employee alone to make their own decisions. Now, another feature to be talking about is the location of control and the decision making. Who is the decision maker ultimately? Now, you can see here this time, the line crosses over at a different point. So we have an interaction in the middle here between one side and the other. Here, autocratic, persuasive, and consultative is where the manager is going to make the final decision. The location of control is all with me. Okay. When I move to the other side here with participative, the group is going to make a decision. We are going to make a decision, and we are going to have the control between us. Whereas in laissez-faire, the location of control, arguably there isn't any. Okay. I've almost stepped back from the controller. I'm letting you do that. You have control. And me as a manager, okay, I've got the decision making that you're going to make the decisions about an individual, what you're going to do. So it sort of blurs across the both. Now, for each one of those, you can jot down what we've covered in the slides about the advantages and disadvantages. Some are faster than others, okay? Some get better feedback than others. Some of them make it more of a consensus so people feel empowered. Some you're giving creativity a real boost. So think of the advantages and disadvantages for each one and summarize them down. Now, what I do in my own class is I look for students to try and build examples in so they feel comfortable in this. So obviously within the slides, you can jot down your managers' examples that we have used as contemporary business models, but also just so you feel comfortable, do you have in your own experiences an example of someone who does that? Do you have a school teacher that has an autocratic style and is very effective with it? Or has a very laissez-faire style and is effective with it? Participative, consultative. Have you got part-time jobs where your manager has those styles? So this bottom line here, school teacher or part-time job, add in there your own personal experiences so you can trigger off and remember, okay, I can see what that's about. I can see when those styles have been used in my own experiences. So hopefully that summary table helps you. What's coming up next is taking that and then adding an extra level. We're going to think about when is it appropriate to use certain styles and when isn't it appropriate to use certain styles.